Let go of my mom, and I'll make you stand." The courtroom fell silent. Every whisper, every heartbeat stopped as the little black girl's voice echoed through the air. People turned their heads, half in shock, half in disbelief. The billionaire sitting in his wheelchair blinked twice, his jaw tightening, unsure if he'd heard right. No one had ever dared to speak to Marcus Langford like that. Not his doctors, not his lawyers, not even his own family. But here stood a child, no more than 10, her eyes fierce yet full of something that felt like light. Marcus Langford, a man who once owned half the skyline, now sat broken and bitter, bound to a wheelchair after a crash that had taken both his legs and his will to live. He'd turned cold over the years. Money still surrounded him, but love had left long ago. And today, he was in court to evict a struggling single mother from one of his properties. Angela Brown, that single mother, stood trembling before the judge. Her rent had lapsed, her job barely paid, and her 10-year-old daughter, Amara, clutched her hand, watching everything unfold. The lawyer's words were cutting. "Your Honor, Mr. Langford has shown leniency for 3 months. But Miss Brown continues to occupy his property without payment. It's time for justice." Angela's lips quivered. "Please, sir, just 1 more week. My new job starts Monday. I promise I'll—" Marcus's hand shot up. "Promises don't pay bills, Ms. Brown." His voice was sharp, dismissive. "I built this city on discipline, not pity." A ripple of murmurs spread through the courtroom. Amara's grip tightened on her mother's arm. The girl had been quiet the entire hearing, but something inside her snapped when she saw her mother's tears. She stepped forward. "Let go of my mom," she said, her small voice echoing with power, "and I'll make you stand." The courtroom gasped. Even the judge raised an eyebrow, half amused. "Young lady, this is not a game," but Amara didn't move. Her gaze was locked on Marcus. "You don't believe me, do you?" she asked softly. "That's okay. No one believed Jesus either." A ripple of laughter broke out. Some of the lawyers chuckled. Even Marcus let out a sarcastic huff. "Cute. Someone's been watching too much TV." Angela grabbed her daughter's hand. "Amara, please sit down," but the girl shook her head. "Mom, let me talk." She turned back to Marcus, eyes glistening but steady. "You think you're strong because you have money, but strength isn't what you have, it's what you give." Marcus's expression hardened. "Little girl, you don't know anything about strength. I know you gave up walking before you even tried." The words sliced through him. For a moment, he couldn't breathe. His hands clenched the sides of his wheelchair. He wanted to shout back, but something, maybe pride, maybe pain, stopped him. The judge cleared his throat. "Let's bring this back to order," but Amara wasn't done. "You can laugh at me, sir," she said, her voice trembling but true. "But God told me something last night. He said, 'Amara, tomorrow you'll help a man stand again.' And now I know he meant you." Angela covered her face in embarrassment as the courtroom buzzed with murmurs. But something strange happened. Marcus didn't laugh this time. He just stared. There was something about that child's voice, something hauntingly familiar. The judge sighed. "All right, young lady, that's enough." Amara took a deep breath and looked straight at Marcus. "You used to believe in miracles, didn't you? Before you stopped believing in yourself." He froze. Those words, they cut deeper than she could have known. Because long before the accident, long before the wheelchair, Marcus Langford had believed in miracles. Until one miracle never came. The day his wife died giving birth to a daughter who didn't survive. He'd buried his faith with them. Now a little girl was standing in front of him, speaking the same words his wife once whispered before she passed. "You'll walk again someday." Marcus's throat tightened. He turned his wheelchair toward the exit, hiding the storm in his eyes. "We're done here," he muttered. But before he rolled away, Amara stepped in front of him and placed her tiny hand on his knee. "Please, just try. For your daughter. She wouldn't want you to give up." The entire courtroom watched. Marcus stared at the girl, his breath uneven. How could she know about his daughter? He'd never spoken of her publicly. He looked down at Amara's hand, small, warm, trembling slightly. And for the first time in years, he felt something he hadn't felt in forever. Hope. The courtroom remained silent, like the air itself had forgotten how to breathe. Marcus stared at the little girl's hand resting on his leg, soft, small, yet somehow full of power. Her words kept echoing inside his mind. "For your daughter. She wouldn't want you to give up." He hadn't heard his daughter's name spoken in years. Alyssa. The memory hit him like a wave. The hospital. The cries. The beeping machines. The lifeless silence that followed. He'd buried every trace of that night deep inside his soul. But now, with one sentence, this child had unearthed it all. Your Honor, Marcus's lawyer said finally, trying to cut the tension. I think we've had enough interruptions from this. Marcus raised his hand, stopping him. Sit down. Everyone turned. The lawyer hesitated, then slowly obeyed. Marcus's voice was calm, but his eyes were on Amara. You said you could make me stand. Angela's eyes widened. Mr. Langford, please, she's just he ignored her. You're serious? Amara nodded. Yes, sir. But not if you keep being angry. That sentence hit harder than anything he'd heard in years. He almost laughed, angry. He'd been living on anger for so long that it felt like oxygen. Without it, what was left? The judge cleared his throat. Mr. Langford, this is highly irregular. We can adjourn if… Marcus looked straight ahead. No. Let her speak. The judge leaned back, uncertain but curious. Proceed, young lady. Amara smiled shyly. Okay, but you have to believe it too. Marcus gave a half smirk. I've believed in a lot of things that failed me, little girl. Then believe in me, she said softly. Those words shouldn't have meant anything. But they did. Something inside him, that hidden, buried part that still remembered faith, stirred. Amara placed both hands gently on his knees. Close your eyes, she whispered. He hesitated but slowly did as she asked. Now, take a deep breath. Pretend you're not scared. He exhaled shakily. His legs had been dead weight for years. The nerves below his waist were gone, the doctors said. Walking again was impossible. But somehow, this child's voice carried something stronger than science, conviction. Feel the light, she said. It's there, even if you can't see it. The courtroom sat frozen. Angela was crying silently, mouthing prayers under her breath. Even the judge leaned forward, unable to look away. Amara pressed gently on his knees again. Now say it, she whispered. Marcus's lips parted. Say what? She smiled. Say, I can stand. He wanted to scoff. He wanted to tell her how foolish this was. But when he opened his mouth, the words came out without thought, soft, broken, trembling. I can stand. Louder, she said. I can stand. Say it like you mean it. I can stand. The room echoed with his voice. A tear slipped down his cheek. And then, in that quiet, impossible moment, Marcus felt something. A twitch. A pulse. A spark. His leg moved. Gasps filled the courtroom. The judge stood. Angela covered her mouth. Marcus froze. He thought it was a spasm, an illusion. But when Amara looked at him and said, Try again, he did. He pushed. Harder this time. His muscles trembled. Sweat formed on his forehead. The pain burned through his legs like lightning, but it was real. And before anyone could blink, Marcus Langford, the man who hadn't stood in 6 years, rose to his feet. The entire courtroom erupted in cries, gasps, and stunned silence. The judge's gavel dropped from his hand. Lawyers scrambled to capture the moment. Angela sobbed uncontrollably, falling to her knees. Marcus stood trembling, staring down at his legs as if they belonged to someone else. He looked at Amara, her little face glowing with the kind of joy that only innocence carries. I told you, she said with a smile that could melt steel. God told me you could. Marcus's lips parted, but no words came. He looked at the floor, then at the ceiling, then back at her, completely undone. His heart pounded, his breath uneven. People rushed forward. A bailiff tried to steady him, but Marcus shook his head. Don't, he said softly. I'm standing. The judge finally spoke, voice trembling. This is unbelievable. Amara grinned. No, sir. It's faith. Reporters who'd come to cover a simple eviction trial were now scrambling for photos and videos. Within minutes, the story spread across every phone in the room. Paralyzed billionaire stands for the first time, thanks to little girl's words. But for Marcus, it wasn't about headlines. It was about the feeling running through his veins, not just the ability to stand, but the realization that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't beyond redemption. He turned to Angela. The eviction, it's over, he said quietly. The house is yours. Angela's eyes filled with tears. Mr. Langford, he shook his head. No, you gave me something I couldn't buy. He looked at Amara again, voice breaking. You gave me my life back. Amara giggled. No, sir. God did that. I just reminded you he still can. Marcus smiled, a real one, for the first time in years. Outside, the world waited for explanations, interviews, answers. But inside that courtroom, something divine had happened, something that couldn't be explained, only felt. As they left, Marcus leaned on the wall briefly, testing his balance. Amara reached for his hand. "Don't worry," she said sweetly. "You'll walk better tomorrow." He looked down at her, eyes full of wonder. "Who are you, little girl?" Amara smiled. "Just someone who believes." And as she walked out holding her mother's hand, Marcus knew his life would never, ever be the same again. Marcus couldn't sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face, the little girl who had looked him straight in the eyes and made the impossible happen. The soft, certain tone of her voice replayed in his mind. "God told me you could." He'd spent 6 years believing nothing good could ever happen again. He'd fired every therapist, every doctor, every aide who dared to tell him there was hope. But Amara, a 10-year-old child with no medical degree, no money, no reason to care, had done what no one else could. She'd made him believe. Marcus stood at his window, watching the city lights. He was standing. His legs trembled, but they were his again. His cane leaned and used by the couch. It felt like his soul had woken up from a coma. But one thing wouldn't leave his mind. How did that girl know about his daughter? The next morning, Marcus made a decision. He called his private investigator, a man named Carter who had handled his corporate affairs for years. "I need you to find out everything about Angela Brown and her daughter," Marcus said. "Where they live, where she works, anything." "Of course, sir," Carter replied. "Any particular reason?" Marcus paused. "Let's just say, she brought me back to life." Within 24 hours, Carter had the report. Angela Brown worked as a night shift nurse's aide at St. Mary's Hospital, the same hospital where Marcus's wife had died 10 years ago. The same hospital where his baby girl, Alyssa, was born still and never took her first breath. That couldn't be coincidence. Marcus drove there himself. No driver, no wheelchair. Just him, his cane, and the faint ache in his legs reminding him that he was alive. When he walked through the automatic doors of St. Mary's, the sterile smell of antiseptic hit him like a ghost from the past. He asked for Angela at the front desk, and when she came out of the hallway, she looked surprised to see him. "Mr. Langford?" she said, blinking. You're walking?" He smiled softly. "I am. Thanks to your daughter." Angela's eyes welled up. "She hasn't stopped talking about you. She said she knew you'd walk again." "I believe her now." Marcus took a breath. "Can we talk?" Privately. They sat in the quiet hospital cafeteria, the hum of vending machines the only sound between them. "I looked into St. Mary's," Marcus began carefully. "You've worked here for years?" Angela nodded. "Since I was 18. It's been my second home." Marcus's gaze hardened with curiosity. "Did you know my wife?" "Alyssa Langford." Angela blinked, confused. "No, sir. But I remember hearing the name years ago. She passed during childbirth, didn't she?" He nodded slowly. "And our baby didn't make it either." Angela frowned. "I'm so sorry." He stared at her for a long moment. "Your daughter," she said something in court. Something no one else could know. "About my daughter." Angela's expression softened. "Amara says things sometimes. Things that don't make sense until they do." "What do you mean?" Angela sighed. "When she was 5, she told me she saw a shining lady who said she was supposed to help people walk again. I thought it was just a child's imagination. But she's always had a gift." Marcus leaned forward, heart pounding. "A gift?" Angela nodded. "Sometimes she touches people who are sick, and somehow they feel better. I don't understand it, but I stopped questioning it years ago." He rubbed his chin, trying to process it. "So you think what she did in court?" Angela smiled faintly. "Wasn't luck." He exhaled. "It wasn't." There was silence between them. Then Angela said softly, "You know, she was born here too. At St. Mary's." Marcus's head snapped up. "Here?" "Yes. 10 years ago. It was a rough birth. The doctor said she almost didn't make it." Something in Marcus's chest tightened. "Who was her doctor?" Angela thought for a moment. "Dr. Hughes. I still remember him. He left the hospital right after that. Said he was moving out of state." Marcus felt a chill crawl down his spine. Dr. Hughes had also been the one who handled his wife's delivery 10 years earlier. The same night, everything went wrong. Could it be? No. It was impossible. His daughter was gone. He'd seen her. He'd buried her. But something inside him whispered otherwise. A week later, Marcus returned to St. Mary's. this time to the records department. As a former hospital donor, he still had access to certain archives. He requested the files from the night his wife died and from the night Amara Brown was born. The clerk hesitated. "Sir, these are sealed documents." Marcus slid his ID card across the desk, then unsealed them. When the folder hit his hands, his heart raced. He flipped through pages, medical forms, signatures, and then he froze. The delivery nurse's initials matched on both files. So did the room number. And most chilling of all, the newborn tag numbers were consecutive. 2 births. Same night. Same hospital. Same staff. And one of the babies had been pronounced stillborn. Marcus's mind went blank. His hands trembled as he flipped through the pages again, and there it was, a faint line of handwriting that had been crossed out, but still visible beneath. Baby girl Langford, transferred. Transferred? To where? He raced out of the records room, heart pounding. His world spun as realization crashed over him like a tidal wave. Could Amara? No, it couldn't be. And yet every piece of logic screamed that it might. He found Angela outside, waiting for her bus. "Angela," he said, breathless, "what blood type is Amara?" She blinked. "Oh, positive." "What?" Marcus felt the air leave his lungs. "That's my type. And my wife's." Angela frowned. "So? That's common." He shook his head. "Not in our family. We have a rare Rh marker, one that only runs through 2 bloodlines in this state." Angela's face paled. "What are you saying?" He took a shaky breath. "I think your daughter might be my daughter." Angela's eyes widened, tears forming instantly. No, that's not possible." "I have proof," he whispered, "and I need to know the truth." She stepped back, trembling. "Mr. Langford, please don't do this. She's all I have." "I'm not trying to take her," Marcus said quickly, voice breaking. I need to know if she's really mine." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The city noise faded, replaced by the thundering of 2 broken hearts realizing they might be connected by one miracle child. Angela looked away, tears streaming down her face. "If she's yours," she whispered, "then what am I?" Marcus's throat tightened. "You're her angel, the one who kept her alive when I couldn't." And as they stood there on that sidewalk, both of them understood. The truth was about to change everything. Angela didn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Amara's smile, the dimple on her left cheek, the way she hummed when she prayed, how she called her Mama Sunshine. And now, there was a man, a billionaire, claiming that her little girl might actually be his daughter. The thought felt like lightning striking her heart. At 6 a.m., her phone buzzed. A message from Marcus. "Please meet me at the hospital. We can do a DNA test together. I promise. No lawyers, no pressure. Just the truth." Angela sat on her bed, phone trembling in her hand. The truth. That word had always scared her. She'd built her life around protecting Amara, keeping her safe from a world that didn't believe in miracles. But maybe this truth wasn't meant to destroy them. Maybe it was meant to free them both. So she agreed. At the hospital lab, Amara sat between them, swinging her legs and eating a chocolate bar. She had no idea the test being done that day might change her entire life. The nurse drew blood from both Marcus and Amara, sealing the tubes in a small white envelope marked confidential. The results would take 48 hours. Those 2 days felt like a lifetime. Marcus found himself thinking about things he'd long buried. The nursery that had stayed locked for 10 years, the toys he'd donated, the birthdays that never happened. Now, every heartbeat whispered the same question. What if she's really mine? Angela, meanwhile, replayed the night Amara was born. The chaos in the delivery room. The nurse who took the baby and said she'd be right back. The mix-up she never understood. The way she'd woken up to a different tag on her baby's wrist and was told, "It's just a paperwork correction." She'd asked once if there was another birth that night, and a young intern had nodded vaguely. "Some rich guy's wife, I think." It didn't end well. Angela never thought much about it after that. Until now. When the results came in, Marcus insisted on meeting in person. They gathered in his office, a glass-walled corner suite overlooking the city. His assistant handed him the envelope and quietly left. Marcus's hands shook as he opened it. 1 sheet. 2 names. 1 truth. He read it once. Then twice. Then a 3rd time. His voice broke as he whispered, "It's a 99.9% match." Angela gasped, covering her mouth. "Oh my God." Amara looked up, confused. Mama, what's happening? Tears streamed down Angela's face as she knelt beside her daughter. Baby, remember how I told you God makes families in all kinds of ways? Yeah. Well, she said, choking on the words, he just showed us something new. Mr. Marcus, he's your daddy. Amara blinked, her eyes wide. She turned toward Marcus, who stood frozen, unable to speak. The air in the room felt sacred, like time itself had stopped to witness a miracle. Finally, Amara smiled. I told you, Mr. Marcus. God said you could stand. He laughed through his tears, dropping to his knees and pulling her into his arms. And you made me stand in more ways than one, sweetheart. Angela watched, heart breaking and healing at the same time. For 10 years, she had loved that child as her own. Every scraped knee, every bedtime prayer, every dream. Now, she was being asked to share her with a man who'd just learned he never really lost his daughter. But something in Marcus's eyes told her this wasn't about taking Amara away. It was about bringing something back. He looked up at Angela. You saved her, he said softly. You gave her life when the world said she was gone. I don't know how to repay that. Angela shook her head, tears glistening. You don't. Just promise you'll love her like I did. Marcus smiled faintly. I already do. The next few weeks were a blur of emotions. Marcus had a private court hearing arranged, not to take Amara away, but to legally recognize her as his daughter while ensuring Angela remained a permanent part of her life. The courtroom that had once laughed at Amara now fell silent as she walked in holding both Marcus's and Angela's hands. The same judge who'd witnessed her miracle months earlier stood, disbelief in her eyes. Miss Amara Brown, the judge said with a smile, you seem to have a way of changing lives. Amara giggled. That's what God told me. The crowd chuckled, but Marcus's face turned serious. He rose to speak. Your Honor, he began. Months ago, I came into this courtroom a broken man. I didn't believe in faith, hope, or miracles. I only believed in pain. But this little girl, he looked at Amara. She healed me in ways no doctor ever could. And today, I'm asking this court to let me do for her what she did for me. Give her a father's love. Angela squeezed Amara's hand, tears streaming down her face. The judge nodded slowly. Mr. Langford, given the DNA evidence and mutual consent of both parties, I see no reason to deny this request. The court hereby recognizes Amara Brown Langford as your legal daughter. The courtroom erupted in applause. Even the stenographer wiped her eyes. But what happened next silenced everyone. As Marcus knelt to hug Amara, the judge leaned forward, smiling. One more thing, Miss Amara. You once told me miracles come when you speak from your heart. What do you say today? Amara grinned, her voice ringing clear. I say families don't have to match. They just have to love. The room filled with warmth, a feeling no legal document could ever capture. Marcus felt it like sunlight breaking through clouds. Angela felt it too. But then, just as everyone thought the story was ending, fate decided to write one more twist. As they left the courthouse, Angela suddenly stumbled on the steps, gasping for air. Marcus caught her just before she fell. Angela, talk to me. Her lips were pale. It's okay, she whispered weakly. Just tired, dizzy. Marcus called for help immediately, and within minutes, an ambulance arrived. Amara sobbed in panic as paramedics lifted her mother onto a stretcher. Mama, please don't go. Please don't go. Angela reached out a trembling hand, touching her daughter's face. Baby, remember what you told Mr. Marcus? Amara nodded through tears. That God can do anything? Angela smiled faintly. Then tell him to do it again. And with that, the ambulance doors closed. Marcus held Amara close as the sirens wailed into the distance. His heart pounded, terrified that after finding his daughter, he might lose the woman who gave her to him. But deep down, he knew one thing. If there was anyone in this world who could bring a miracle, it was that little girl beside him. The ambulance sirens screamed through the city, flashing lights cutting across the cold night air. Marcus sat inside, holding Amara's hand tightly as she trembled beside her unconscious mother. Angela's skin was pale, her breathing shallow, her pulse weak. The paramedics worked frantically, shouting vitals and preparing oxygen, but nothing could drown out the little girl's sobs. Please don't take my mama, Amara whispered, tears streaming down her face. Please don't let her die. Marcus's heart ached in a way he hadn't felt in years. She's strong, sweetheart, he said, his voice cracking. She's the strongest woman I've ever met. She'll fight. When they reached the hospital, Marcus followed the stretcher as far as he could, but a nurse stopped him at the ICU door. "You can't go in, sir," she said firmly. He slammed his hands against the door frame, desperate. "She saved my daughter's life. Do something." Amara stood frozen, her small fingers gripping Marcus's sleeve. The doctor rushed by with a chart. "She's having a cardiac arrest. Get the paddles." Marcus turned away, covering Amara's ears as the words echoed like a hammer inside his chest. 10 minutes later, a nurse stepped out, face pale. "We're trying everything we can, but it doesn't look good." Amara broke free from Marcus's grip and ran straight into the ICU, slipping past the staff before anyone could stop her. "Amara!" Marcus shouted, running after her, but it was too late. She reached her mother's bedside, her tiny hands clutching Angela's lifeless arm. The monitors were flatlining. Doctors shouted for security, but Amara didn't hear any of it. She closed her eyes, trembling, and whispered, "God, it's me again, it's Amara. You help Mr. Marcus stand. Please, please don't take my mama. You can do it again. You told me to help people. Well, she's my person. So please, please help her stand too." The room went silent. Marcus stopped at the doorway, his breath caught in his throat. The air felt heavy, electric. For a second, nothing happened. And then, beep. Everyone froze. The heart monitor flickered once, twice, and then steady beats filled the room. Angela's chest rose as she gasped for air, eyes fluttering open. Amara," she whispered weakly. The doctor stared at the monitor, jaw hanging open. Her heart just restarted. On its own. Tears streamed down Marcus's face as he rushed forward, scooping Amara into his arms. "You did it again," he whispered. "You really did it again." Angela turned her head toward them, smiling faintly through tears. "Told you she's special." Amara beamed, holding her mother's hand. "I told God we still needed you." The doctor cleared his throat, shaken but smiling. "Whatever you did, young lady, keep doing it. The world could use more of that." Days later, the hospital released Angela. The story of the girl who prayed her mother back to life spread like wildfire. News stations called it a miracle. Scientists called it impossible. But Marcus didn't care what anyone called it. He just knew it was real. He had his daughter. Amara had her mother. And Angela had another chance at life. One evening, weeks after everything, Marcus invited them both to his mansion, not as guests, but as family. The once cold, empty home now smelled of pancakes, laughter, and fresh flowers. Angela looked around in awe as Marcus opened the doors to a brand new wing, built just for them. "This is for you," he said softly. "For everything you've done. You and Amara don't ever have to worry again." Angela's voice trembled. "Marcus, you don't have to. I want to," he interrupted gently. "You gave me back more than life. You gave me a reason to live." Amara tugged at his sleeve. "Daddy, can I say grace?" Marcus nodded, smiling. Amara clasped her hands, eyes shining. "Thank you, God, for making broken things beautiful again. For giving me my mama back, and my daddy too. And thank you for showing the world that love is the biggest miracle." Angela and Marcus exchanged a tearful look as the little girl finished her prayer. In that quiet moment, there was no wealth, no pain, no past, just family, reborn through faith and forgiveness. Later that night, after Amara had fallen asleep, Marcus and Angela stood outside on the balcony overlooking the city lights. "She really is something, isn't she?" Angela said softly. Marcus nodded. "She's more than something. She's everything I never thought I'd have again." Angela smiled. "She's ours now, both of ours." They stood there in silence, the night breeze gentle against their faces. Marcus looked up at the stars and whispered, "Thank you," to a sky that finally seemed to be listening. Months later, Marcus founded a charity called the Amara Foundation, dedicated to helping children and families in need, especially those who'd lost hope. Angela became its heart, running outreach programs and caring for the people society forgot. Amara, though still young, became a symbol of faith and kindness, her story touching hearts across the nation. At one of the foundation's first events, reporters crowded around, asking Marcus, "Mr. Langford, do you really believe your daughter performed miracles?" Marcus smiled, looking toward Amara as she played nearby. "I don't just believe it," he said. "I've lived it. Sometimes, miracles don't come from heaven. Sometimes, They come holding your hand. Angela reached for his hand, and together they walked toward their daughter, the girl who had brought two lost souls back to life and taught an entire city that love was stronger than loss, and faith could rewrite even the darkest stories. As the cameras clicked and the world watched, Amara looked up and waved. "Hey, Daddy," she called out with that innocent smile that once changed everything. He laughed. "Yes, sweetheart." She pointed to a small group of children in wheelchairs nearby. "Can I go help them stand too?" Marcus felt tears sting his eyes as he nodded. "Go ahead, baby. That's what you were born to do." And as Amara ran toward them, the sunlight hit her face, turning her curls into a glowing halo. The moment felt timeless, proof that sometimes the most powerful miracles come from the smallest voices. Because once upon a time, a little girl had stood in a courtroom and said, "Let go of my mom, and I'll make you stand." And she did, not just for one man, but for the whole world. If this story gave you chills or touched your heart, make sure to smash that like button. And if you believe that miracles still happen when we choose love over hate, hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss another powerful story like this one. We share heart-touching stories every single day. Stories that remind us that no matter who you are or where you come from, hope always finds a way. Thanks for watching, and remember, stay kind, stay strong, and keep believing.